Okay, it is 6:03. We're going to start the curriculum and instruction meeting for June 14th, 2021. In attendance, we have Ms. Leone, Mr. Miller, Mrs. Bell, and myself, Mrs. Albright. Our new curriculum and instruction items we're going to start with is middle school math progression, and Mrs. Angela Owens is going to speak to this.
Okay, can you hear me? Can we move that item to the end of the meeting because Jenny Rexford is going to come in to speak to that?
Sure.
She's stuck in traffic.
All right. So, do you want to go to the Keystone
Sure.
end of course assessment pilot?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, basically the update on that is next year students will be informed that their Keystone exam will be part of their end of year grade. The high school, Mr. Spores is currently working towards how the Keystone exam will convert into a grade and be an end of course assessment. So it's something he's looking into and speaking with other teachers about to see how this works for converting that into a grade for us.
Is that the normal practice?
They're looking for a common assessment to have at the end of course, so I don't think it's real common, but people are doing it.
And the Keystone is everything they've been taught. I know what it is. They've been taught everything that's on it.
Yeah, the Keystone exams were originally established as a culminating exam for the completion of Algebra 1 biology and English literature. And they were originally established as an in-course assessment for that. And the curriculums aligned to the eligible content of those exams. When scores are given for those exams, there's actually, if you take a look at a score report, it's like actually column A through almost double Z with the data that they give you. And one of the columns actually calculates the numeric score, let's say it's like 1480, into a percentage score. And schools are starting to use that as an end-of-course assessment in practice and calculate that grade. So the students are taught the content, so as it aligns to the curriculum, should have that knowledge.
Okay.
Is there going to be like a review period from the whole year that they're going to have to take this exam? Like how is that going to look so that, something from the beginning of the year, they're able to...
When students do take the Keystone, they do have that. I mean, currently we do that, where the teacher does do a review. They make sure they teach all the eligible content for the Keystone. So it's just a matter of taking that score that they get on the Keystone and making that convert into a percentage for our records, for our numbers on report cards.
And I can speak from experiences in previous experiences, and we did utilize that as an end-of-course assessment for our students. We tracked it for 2 years before we implemented to see the direct correlation to how it would affect students' final overall grade. And it's before we tracked over and used that instead of a teacher-created end-of-course assessment. And there was a direct correlation with student success on the Keystone exam as it were in those 2 years where they were taking the teacher-generated exam.
And there'll be accommodations for kids that have IEPs and things like that in place for those exams?
As per what the state allows for.
Okay. All right. The next item on the agenda is the SAVVAS K-6 kickoff.
That's the SAVIS K-6 kickoff. That's our new ELA program. And basically, I just want to keep you updated that on June 2nd, virtual meeting with all the K-6 teachers, and SAVIS did a really broad overview of the teachers of the new program. They also received all the teachers' manuals before they left for the summer, which was really important to them. And so far, for professional learning, the next one is to get scheduled for the second in-service day in August.
Okay. Encore maps to be posted for fall 2021.
And I'll be working with Scott Matz this summer to get those put up on the website, the Encore courses that we have. We have a few more that are not completed, but there were teachers that were doing a couple of the courses, so they'll get those done this year.
Okay, and you have a summer programming update.
Yeah, so for the Summer Academics Connection Program, there's approximately 260 students enrolled. The transportation is working together with the building principals to make sure that students that needed transportation will be getting transportation. Also, the elementary kicked off their One School, One Book program. It was during the last 2 weeks of school. It was pretty awesome. I don't know if you got to see it on any of the Facebook feeds or anything, but at the primary center, they were doing the book, The Mouse and Motorcycle, and somebody dressed up as a mouse, one of the secretaries, and rode on the back of one of our other employees' motorcycles. It was pretty cute, and rode through the parking lot, so that was exciting. And then at the intermediate center, there looks the Lemonade War, and they arranged to have a lemonade stand where each class was scheduled throughout the day to go visit the lemonade stand, and that's how they kicked off that book. And then starting June 21st, the teacher for the One School, One Book will be conducting a live Zoom session once a week, and they'll be having discussions and making connections with the books and encouraging the students to read and do some text analysis, so that'll be fun to watch.
Okay. I think we're going to go back now that Mrs. Rexstrad is here to middle school math progression.
Thanks, I apologize. 724 is closed, FYI. In the other part by like Cedar Hill Road. So if you're going that direction later, you might want to think about an alternate route. So at the middle school, we are moving forward with having a pilot of pre-algebra in our 6th grade. The 5th grade teachers made recommendations of students based on their yearly final math grade, how they performed on their MAP assessment, and their last PSSA score, which actually was from 3rd grade because of the pandemic. So based on that, they also included some notes. And then Mr. Towers and I did a little bit of a deeper dive into those MAP scores to take a look and see where those scores fell nationally in terms of the 2 areas where we felt were most important, which was the algebraic expressions area and the numbers and operations. And so we took a look at that to see if those students scored in the high or high average range there. There ended up being 32 students who scored in the high or high average range on their MAP assessment, scored advanced on their 3rd grade PSSA, and we didn't really take much consideration into their year-end final grade simply because this year was certainly not like a typical year, so the last thing we wanted to do was to make a decision on a kid based on how they performed this school year. So the next step was that I reached out to the families of these students on Friday morning, and I set up the CET, which is the assessment that we take at the secondary level. I set up the CDT to be able to give these students the 6th grade assessment to see how they would score on that, because essentially they'll be skipping over 6th grade math in order to take pre-algebra. A typical student at the middle school takes pre-algebra in 8th grade. However, we have about a third of our students who take pre-algebra as 7th graders. So this is essentially taking the 6th grade student and moving them 2 years ahead of the typical student, or a year ahead of those students who were advanced at that level. So it's a pilot for us to see how it goes. So I gave those parents in my message that I sent on Friday the option of several different dates and times, windows of times to take that CDT. at the middle school, and then also gave them the option if it was easier for them to take it here at the high school. So they just would need to arrange that with me or Mr. Towers, and we could be here, but we figured that way they'd be able to walk, if that was easier for them, or potentially it would be an easier transportation for a parent who lived closer to the high school. So far I've had half of the parents who responded and have set up times with their students. So I gave them the deadline of the end of this week just so I can make sure that we have everything set up and ready the following week. So hopefully I will hear back from the majority of the rest of them, and then we'll move forward and see how the students do on that CDT. But we're planning on, based on the number of students who were recommended, we're planning on offering it as a section in 6th grade. If the number hadn't been so high, it could have been considered that they might just take pre-algebra in a 7th grade class, but because we will likely have what amounts to a class size, we'll offer it as a section in 6th grade with one of our 6th grade math teachers. So does anyone have any questions about any of that? I'm pretty excited about the opportunity for kids to do that, so I think it'll be a really good opportunity for them, which means that then when they're in 8th grade, they'll be able to take Algebra 2 at the middle school level. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mrs. Owens, is there anything else you want to add?
No, that's all I had.
Okay. All right. Well, then it is 6:14, and that concludes the curriculum instruction meeting.